Hello, welcome to Lab 9. Today, we are going to look at neurons. We're going to look at the different parts of a neuron, what makes up these different neurons, and the specific models we have for neurons. This is this specific model that we will use for a neuron. So let's look at our lab sheet. On this lab sheet here, the axon of a nerve is actually going to be this whole long portion throughout here. The axon is what takes information and sends it down to the next cell. It could be the next neuron, could be muscle, glands, organs, whatever, to send information along. These neurons here use these axons to send off this information. The axon hillock is actually this little funnel portion that comes down to that actual neuron. An axon terminal, we are actually going to see the axon terminal that's attached to this cell body of this neuron. The cell body is this entire area through here. This would be our cell body. The axon or the axon terminals are the bottom of a neuron here that attaches onto the next neuron cell. That's what this is showing, is these little orange kind of things that are attaching to this cell body. Those are axon terminals from another neuron that is connecting to this specific neuron. Our dendrites are the portions here that come off of the cell body. They have them on all sides here. These dendrites are where we receive. It's just another place where we can receive information from other neurons. So these axon terminals can connect to the dendrites. They can connect to the cell body. So these are different ways that these neurons will communicate and connect to each other. The myelin sheath is made up of these Schwann cells. Schwann cells, when they are growing and forming, what they are doing is each of these Schwann cells are going to wrap around the axon of some of our neurons, and it's going to help to insulate these specific nerve axons. By insulating them, they help information travel much quicker. So these Schwann cells are also listed as neurolemnocytes on your lab list. They are what make up this myelin sheath. So from here to here, that would be one Schwann cell. From here over would be the next Schwann cell. So how could I ask questions based off of this? Because these two cells here make up the same thing. So the way I could ask this would be, what cell it makes up this myelin sheath here? Or I could say, what is this that's helping to insulate this axon of this nerve cell? Inside this cell body here, this picture is kind of blurry, but in here, what I just circled in blue, that would be our nucleus of our nerve cells. the synaptic end bulbs are the same thing as these axon terminals in this picture here. This synaptic end bulb is this bottom portion of this axon terminal. We move on to the next slide, we can start to see some of the other features that we can't really see when we look at this model. So, well, there's one more thing we can see here. My bad. We can see that myelin sheath gap, also known as the neurofibril nodes, or these nodes of Ranvier. What this is this is the space that is between each of these Schwann cells. So in this area right here, or this area right here, those are known as those on your sheets that's listed as neurofibril nodes, or as I learned them, nodes of Ranvier. Those are both the same thing for the same area. So let's come down here and look at a drawing because it'll give us a little bit more information. See here you can see the nucleus in the middle, a lot nicer. These nissel bodies, these are different proteins that are found within the cell body. They're really difficult to see up in this model because the cover is on top of it. You can see them in the drawings. You see that axon hillock, which is kind of that funnel that comes down. That is our axon hillock. And then the axon is this yellow portion that continues on the rest of the way. That gives me my axon. These myelin sheath is all these wrapping around of that Schwann cell or that neurolemma site. We see that myelin sheath gap, which is listed on your sheet as that neurofibril node or node of Ranvier. We also can see these little teeny tiny neurofibrils. These neurofibrils are all these little individual portions that are coming down that make up this one axon. Same thing with muscles. When we had that myofibril, we have the same thing for that neurofibril. You see all these dendrites up at the top and all the way down at the bottom. You can see that axon terminal and that synaptic end bulb. That axon terminal is this end part of this axon, that synaptic end bulb. It's just that enlargement that comes through. The one thing that we have left here is that endoneurium, perineurium, and epineurium, and fascicle. The epineurium is that layer that's around that entire spinal nerve coming off of anywhere. That epineurium holds all those axons in place. Those axons are separated into those different fascicles. Those fascicles are wrapped in that perineurium. That perineurium contains all of those different individual axons, and around those individual axons is where you're going to find that endoneurium. So in this picture, in this model, we're not going to see any of those because we don't have any models that really show those different layers. So here is a slide of an actual neuron. So you can see that axon that's coming off of that cell body. You can see those dendrites that are extending off of that cell body. There's usually lots of dendrites, unless we're looking at a bipolar neuron, then there's only one dendrite. And then you can even see this axon hillock coming down. You don't really see the Schwann cells in this picture or the myelin sheath, but that is everything that you would need to know for Lab 9 neurons. Thank you very much for listening.